I'm Leon Fouche, partner at BDO Brisbane Cyber Practice.
I'm Stan Gallo, a partner with the Forensic Practice in Brisbane. We recently hosted the Courier-Mail QBM luncheon.
The topic of the luncheon was talking about risk, a battle rages on. Stan, what was your takeaway from the conversation?
Despite the current COVID environment, a lot of the attendees talked about broader risk issues for the business, so the short-term ones related to the pandemic, but also a raft of other ones around cost pressures, the ongoing viability of the business, technology pressures with the pivot to a mobile workforce. So the things that were really keeping them up at night were far more ranging than just the pandemic and what's the result of the current COVID-19 situation. What were your key takeaways?
So it was interesting, a lot of organisations had obviously fared fairly well in their preparations going into the COVID, but what I sort of found a lot of organisations struggling with is understanding really risk exposure, working from home and that environment's giving them. So a lot of discussions around the table on what's going to be our risk within our supply chain, how we sort of assess that, are we going to continue working in this way? So I think there's a lot of work that still needs to be done for organisations to start looking at really the risk of this new working environment in a new way of working remotely.
There'll be a lot of interrelations between those businesses that'll be a risk. So you mentioned supply chain. So there'd be a lot of businesses relying on other businesses to be there post-COVID and how they link together and how those interrelationships will play out going forward.
That's exactly right. And I think that's where a lot of organisations start thinking about not just their own risk, but actually those organisations they're relying on, which is their supply chain, and what's the risk that brings to their business.
It was an interesting chat and it was great to have them in and get a feel for how they feel about risk.